Can you see my slides?
They're small.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, my 1% phone.
Thank you, her 1% phone that got her here safely. Okay. Ooh, okay, now we have slides.
There we go. Looks good.
Woohoo! May we begin? We're going to keep snacking, please. I hope you all do the same. Welcome to the March chapter meeting in person. And I'm sorry, I keep saying in person, but it's really a hybrid meeting. That's what it is. There's some in person and there are some online, including Dr. Pat Williams. So for those of you that are not in Westminster, I don't know, the wind is blowing like 70 miles an hour. Was quite an effort. Hey, Georg, will you do me a favor and close that door? Thank you. To get from the car into the building. So where Pat lives, not safe to be out in all of this, and fires north of where he lives, etc. So we punted, which is what we can do. Guess what? We don't have snow. So I think that's fantastic. So welcome, Dr. Pat Williams, with us tonight. Let's kick off and get things started, and then we'll turn it over to Pat. Is sound okay? Am I making anyone crazy in Zoom or
Sounds great.
online?
It's good on Zoom.
Okay. So we'll run through just high-level agenda just so that you can see that. We'll kick off with some recognition and share some chapter events. Barbara has a message for us, as well as Stan, centering, and then our speaker of the evening. When your soul whispers, do you listen? Big question, probably for me today. So our season pass holders, and guess what? I've got to move you.
A little dog. Yeah.
How's that? So for a minute, we're going to lose you. So we have some new ICF Colorado season pass holders, which we love because you have an opportunity to engage in all of our fabulous programming for one low rate, which is amazing. So welcome Amy Karras, Catherine Huey, Gabby Ring, Juliana Sapecki, and Marguerite Tierney. We're delighted to have you. And who's here?
Meg.
Oh, we go by Meg. I'm sorry. Meg's in the room. So let's, if you're on Zoom tonight, also, do a motion or something so we know that you're there. So welcome. Delighted to have you. We have a lot of new ACC credentialed coaches. Way to go. Lori Benton, Seema Bott, Andrea Delory, Jordan Devine, Christine I had this earlier. I'm going to butcher it. Sorry, Christine. Dharma
Ward.
Dharma Ward. All of a sudden my tongue isn't working, but you can correct me later. Renee Fisher, Shell Johnson, Kimberly Malak, Christian Nguyen, and Joni Saunders, Maggie Snyder, and Ralph Savak. Anyone in the room here? Okay. And hopefully you are also online. Way to go. That is such an accomplishment to have achieved your first level credential. So congratulations. We are delighted for you. Okay, next week, next Wednesday is the business building webinar, The Aligned Coach, Unlocking Authentic Business Growth with Paul Banky. Paul spoke for the chapter last year. He's been with us a couple of times. This, I think, is first time, or it's been a while since he's been part of business building. So really excited to have him there. And for our next chapter meeting, we have Dr. Tyrone Holmes for putting the ROI back into DEI. So also very excited for that session. And on Monday, we have a special ICF Global session with the Maryland chapter, Imposter Syndrome, Owning Your Worth and Helping Others Find Theirs. It just went out on Basecamp, so apologies for a little bit of delay there, but really excited to have you join that. And if you're not able to join, don't forget you can sign up because then you'll get the recording. So great opportunity to engage with a much wider audience. And that is a 10 to 11:30 Mountain Time session, 12 to 1:30 Eastern, I believe. Don't hold me to that because I didn't put the times in here. Okay. Next onboarding meeting is Friday, April 3rd with Anna Balbolik and Patty Reish. Anna's in the room with us this evening, and thank you, Anna, for the snacks that are here tonight. We really appreciate it. And 9 different coaches' coffees all around town. You know what? I totally forgot to introduce myself. I don't know everyone in the room or online. So I'll pause in a moment and do that. Tonight's session, we know that there are 1.5 CCEs. We don't yet know the makeup of those CCEs, but you will receive your certificate as soon as we have that finalized. We will be sharing the survey. Please do watch for the survey that also comes. It's the same survey. If we have it tonight, we'll share it in the chat for those on Zoom. Otherwise, when you get the event recording, I think this month it's going to be in that communication. When you get the event recording, the survey should be in there. Last month, it might have come separately. So we're trying to get them combined. We need your feedback. So please share your perspective on our events or ideas for future events. The survey is no longer tied to your CCEs, and we're not getting any feedback. So please, we welcome the feedback, okay? It helps us to make sure that we're delivering programming that's of interest to you and thinking ahead. So my apology for diving straight in. I'm Kim Coleman, the Director of Education. So Barbara, I think you have a message for
Past Director of Education.
And Stan is the past Director of Education. Yeah.
And I'm also past Director of Education. So I just wanted to share a message from the chapter that the ICF Colorado chapter has a commitment to focus on creating an environment where every member feels they belong. And so we invite you to share any thoughts on actions that the chapter can take to move us toward a goal of fostering a coaching community where every individual feels valued, respected, and empowered to thrive. And we have a feedback form. This is not the event feedback form. This is for you to share what you think we're doing to create a welcoming environment and what we could do more of. So I hope you have some things to share for us, and I'll post it on Basecamp and as well for those of you who are on Zoom. And yeah, so we'd just love to hear any feedback. All right. Am I passing it back to you, Kim?
To Stan, do you want me to go to the next slide so that you can be careful, please?
Okay. Oh boy, you'll see. I got this. We got feedback. Since we're back in. Yeah. So we have a few announcements actually. First of all, the LinkedIn page. We used to have a LinkedIn page that was a private LinkedIn page.
Dan,
Yes.
can you get closer to the mic?
If I talk straight into the microphone, there's a lot of feedback. So in this room.
Or maybe project?
I can turn it down. Okay. We'll just have to deal with it. So the LinkedIn page that we had was a private LinkedIn page. which meant that only people in ICF Colorado would be able to see anything and no one would even get notifications. So we created this business page that now is public to the world, but anybody who follows the page actually gets notified of the events and so on that are listed. So I recommend that everybody just ignore the old one and sign up for this one, use the QR code, or go to the ICF Colorado business page. Yeah, okay. International Coaching Week is the next thing coming up. It's coming up in May 11th to 17th. We are now looking for speakers to present. So if you have an interest, if you have anything you'd like to present, we will be announcing, we'll be sharing the presentation form very shortly. I'm going to be doing a presentation, at least one. So everybody should be, anybody who has something interesting to say ought to present, because it's a great way to get our message out to the world. And it's international, so every country, every chapter around the world presents at the same time. So you have an audience of the whole world. So, the 30th anniversary, this is our 30th anniversary year. We have a celebration that's scheduled for September 10th. So save the date. It's September 10th. Starts at 3 p.m. The doors open at 3 p.m. With the formal program starting shortly after, and then it'll end around dinner time, so people can go out to dinner afterwards. But so save the date, September 10th. Okay. Last thing is volunteers. We're a volunteer organization, and everybody here is volunteers. We have a number of volunteer positions available. We'd love to have you. I'll be sending out a message on Basecamp and probably on the email as well with a form, but we need Zoom hosts. We need people to help set up the unconference. We need someone to help evaluate our website, which is very out of date. We'd like to have someone to help. And I know there's going to be more volunteer positions available. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. Take a deep breath, or I will. And let's move into our centering. I'll share the picture, a picture on Basecamp. I realized I didn't put it in the slides tonight, but it's this lovely, I'm going to call it a Gerber geranium or a Gerber daisy. Not sure that that's what it is. And the theme is belonging. And the message, the first message or the definition around belonging is, I create belonging by being fully me. And I want to bring this a little bit more to life in this centering. So tonight, as we're thinking about when our soul whispers, are we listening? We want to connect and get intentional. And we want to shift our view and choose the life we want to create. So the shift is around belonging. It's defined as being a member or part of a group or an organization. When we look for evidence of not belonging, we find it. We abandon our individuality and our uniqueness to fit in. The shift: start with understanding and committing to who you are. Belong to yourself first. Then choose to be seen for your beauty and uniqueness. In doing so, the world and others will see what you see in yourself, and they get to receive the gift of you. As you belong to yourself, you will inspire others to do the same for themselves. So notice when you feel like you don't belong. What's your reason for desiring to belong? Is it an aligned desire or to fill a void in your worthiness? Everyone is a miracle because everyone is unique. It takes each single flower blooming brightly to make the perfect bouquet. So let us all take ownership for our individuality and be more of ourselves. So with that, we have Dr. Pat Williams with us this evening. He is an accomplished author and master coach. He's considered one of the early pioneers of coaching with a career spanning over 4 decades. Pat's contributions to the coaching profession are numerous. He served on the boards of several prestigious organizations, including the International Coach Federation, where he was a past board member. He's the past president of ACTO and an honorary VP of the International Society of Coaching Psychology. Additionally, Pat is the founding member of Harvard University's Institute of Coaching and was honored in 2018 as an inaugural member of the International Coaching Federation Circle of Distinction. His extensive experience and educational background make him highly sought after as a speaker and a teacher, and we are delighted to have Pat share this deeply inspired topic with us tonight and help us to explore even further when our soul whispers, are we listening? Okay, Pat, I will stop sharing.
Okay.
So that you can share.
Ah, okay.
Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Do we just need to turn up?
Is he talking? No,
No, not yet.
I don't know what's gone.
I need to find my PowerPoint too, because it's not showing up.
There we go. There we go. Can we hear you now?
Okay. And can you see my presentation?
Just about. There we go.
Hey, things are working.
Good job.
So, from the beginning, help.
Oh, just go back to slideshow or down to the little image, the screen image in the lower right.
That thing, no, it doesn't do
It's
it.
right. I know. Yeah. Well, that was me. Or go back up into slideshow. There you go. Play from
Play
start.
Okay. Yay!
Good. Yay,
Okay.
good job.
Now I need to get some of the pictures of us off the screen. How do I do that? Let's see.
Up at the
Barbara's gonna
top.
highlight
Up at the top, there's a thing that appears
The
that says
view.
view, and you can change that to
Ah.
gallery, multi-speaker, or whatever.
I've got more. View gallery view. Oh, I'm sorry. Should have practiced this. Yeah, that's not on my Mac. I don't see view, or I don't see. I got show meeting. Is that it?
Well, that's right. You're looking at it in
It looks
share
different
screen.
as presenter.
Oh, well, okay. All right, good. Because I have a copy of my slides, so we're okay.
okay.
All right, let me go back. I have to be able to move the slides though.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So the title of this thing
Right there.
actually, we good? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
muted.
yeah.
No, I'm not muted. All right. Well, thank you for this crazy evening. I can say I hope this talk blows you away, but that's why I'm not there. But I appreciate this chapter so much. I really do think ICF Colorado is probably the best ICF chapter in the world. I've spoken at many, both on Zoom and in person, and I can't believe the volunteer hours and the quality of people that put their time into this. So I so appreciate that. My inspiration for what I'm talking about tonight comes from a few things, but some of you earlier on the Zoom call were talking about retiring, partially working. Somebody said repreferencing, and I've been saying for 3 or 4 years I'm repurposing. I did have a few coaching clients after being full-time since 1996 and a little part-time before that as part of my psychology practice. But I just got a little tired of being full-time and was doing a lot of speaking and writing and book tours and things. So I started doing just a few. But the good news was I had about 5 or 6 clients from the FAA and the Department of Defense, and they all got doged by Elon Musk when that came in. So I don't have any of them anymore. That was good clients and good money. So I said, all right, what's next? And Fran Fisher has a program called My Innate Nature. She's had it for decades. And I took it twice and finally got to work with her one-on-one since we live in the same house. And I went through that and found my values, my purpose, a master plan for the year. And it turns out that my purpose is to be a curious explorer. And that fits me from way back. That is really who I am. Um, so that came into me because some of that curious exploring comes to me as a whisper. It's like some people might call it the inner voice. Some people might call it maybe it's a heart message, whatever. We'll get into that a little deeper. But let me tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got here. Since my early adulthood, I've been drawn to the study of higher consciousness, influenced by the writings of Abraham Maslow, the early work of Carl Jung, and others. The first psychology class I took in 1968 at Kansas University was the psychology of satisfaction. Thank God it wasn't Psych 101 with studying rats in cages. That's what I learned about Maslow and Jung, and I love learning. I loved adventure. I came to understand that my alter ego, which is, curious explorer now, over the course of my life, I've had many true adventures in nature and outdoor experiences. I also studied internal adventures in college. I studied and experimented with meditation, guided imagery, hypnosis, psychedelics, tribal practices, yoga, Tai Chi, and other ancient practices and disciplines from indigenous cultures as well. I spent 2 formative weeks at Esalen at age 19 and 20, which was pretty revealing in those days. That was 69 and 70. After earning a bachelor's degree in psychology, I completed a master's in humanistic psychology and a doctorate in transpersonal psychology. But I'll tell you about it. You probably heard a lot about Maslow, but the last book he mostly wrote was The Farther Reaches of Human Nature, published posthumously, completed by his wife and colleagues, shaped much of my thinking about human potential. That's when he actually changed the word self-actualization to higher than that, self-consciousness and transhuman, he even started talking about. So at age 27, I completed my doctoral dissertation, Transpersonal Psychology and the Evolution of Consciousness. Now, I know, thinking back, that seems a bit audacious at such a young age, but I had explored and I was curious about the ways to experience and communicate about higher consciousness. My final statement in the book was, it's only through a change of consciousness that the world will survive. Well, duh, that's still true today. So across 15 years as a psychologist and 4 decades as a life and leadership coach, I've learned to trust the guidance of my inner voice for me and those I work with when they're willing. Recently, I've written essays on this theme, and When the Soul Whispers came about when Fran and I did a little getaway up to Estes Park. So how did I get to this point with metaphoric representation of a whisper? And I'll get you that, but let me read you something that I kind of created while we were in a cabin for 2 days and staying unplugged pretty much, except on our computers, writing, reading, things like that. This was not created quickly. It was not assembled with urgency or efficiency. It was formed through reflection, through presence, through the soul wisdom of seasons of life, metaphorical seasons. This happened to be April when we were there. This is a guide for those who are tired of rising on command, for those who are living the question before clarity, the pause before becoming, the stillness that doesn't apologize for being still. You may find yourself in this, or you may find silence. Both are welcome. Let this be a companion in your pausing, not a cure, not a command, but a quiet witness to your unfolding. The journey inward is not a detour, it is the path, and one that includes the return. I'll just insert right here. If at the end of this evening, I can send people this initial inspired poetic essay I wrote, and everybody can have a copy. We can figure out how that's done. But when my own whisper motivated me to write something, I had the title because I wanted to go up there and write about emotional hibernation. It was spring. And I thought, well, the bears might be coming out in Rocky Mountain National Park. So it's kind of the time I didn't think we'd see the bears. We could get lucky. I've seen them before. But I was thinking that with that changing weather, that they're exiting hibernation, and the word inspired me to write about emotional hibernation. And so we begin the invitation to emotional hibernation, which is one of the times when you will hear your soul whisper. You're not broken. You are not lost. You are simply in a season the world has forgotten how to honor. We live in a culture that exalts blooming, visible growth, constant motion, the next big thing. And while blooming can be at the border of joyful thoughts, it may also be in the experience of thoughts and beliefs that entrap the soul. But you're not in a blooming season or life stage right now. You are being asked to pause, to slow down, to descend into the depths of you. This guide is a gentle map through the oft neglected or misunderstood season, a season of rest, of cocooning, of emotional hibernation. It is a space for reclamation, not performance, for restoration, not achievement. You don't have to know who you're becoming yet when you take this time to hibernate. You have only to be willing to listen, to soften, to let the spiral of this phase hold you. There is medicine in the quiet. There is growth that only happens in a welcome twilight. So let us begin. Now, how does that apply to coaching? I guess I need to move some slides here, don't I? Okay, so the coaching mindset and presence, I said, are the two competencies that I think fit this, because here's what's come to be true. In 2019, the ICF revised the 11 competencies down to 8, and they added one of coaching mindset. That's been improved even since then. And the more I read that, the more I think that's the who of who we are, even when we're not coaching. Most of us live the life of a coach. We've learned from our coaching and from our coach training to be that kind of person. And that mindset is who you bring to coaching. So I think some of these times you take time to pause, whether they're a few minutes at the beginning of your day, or whether you take a weekend or you take a personal sabbatical, it doesn't matter. You can do mini pauses anytime you want. But that also brings in presence. I think presence is really the glue that holds all the other competencies together, because with presence, the rest of them show up. And some of the coaches that I teach and mentor, they're already thinking of that next great question they want to ask. Well, they're not present when they're doing that. They're not really in tune with heart coherence, if you could say. That comes with practice, comes with a lot of practice. But the more you can come back to presence, it's that spot on a teeter-totter, where you stand on it and it's moving. If you get to the middle, that's the presence, and you may only be there for a moment. So it's the who combined with the what. The who of the coach, the who of the client, and being versus doing. Those were things that were added to the competencies that weren't there in the early days. So competency 2, a little more about that. The coaching mindset develops and maintains a mindset that is open, flexible, and client-centered. So it's my belief that if we come into coaching with having practiced the way we live our life, we show up that way. If you've got stuff going on in your life, and we all do, something may have happened that impacts you emotionally or energetically. Can you leave that outside the door before you go into coach? Can you shake that off and separate it, compartmentalize it, so that you can be present too? Mindset and coaching presence. Maintaining presence is when you're fully conscious and present with the client, employing a style that is open, flexible, grounded, and confident. Now, if you look at those, both 2 and 5 have the words open and flexible in them. and pretty much embody client-centered. So the evolution of a whisper, this is what when I first wrote the article, it evolved into when the soul whispers, purposeful pausing for hope, health, and becoming. Now, lately, and y'all can comment on this maybe in chat later, but I've thought maybe it should be hope, health, and humanity, because I think now it's spreading out, becoming, yeah, there's hope for that, hope, health, and humanity. Plus, I like alliteration, so I'm playing with that. That's how that became. So let me read a little bit from the essay. This is like a book reading at the tattered cover bookstore in Denver or something, but I want you to listen with your eyes closed, maybe, or listen for images or words that speak to you. For as long as I can remember, I have been drawn to the quiet places within us, the spaces where thinking softens, where emotions settle, where the deeper voice of the self begins to be heard. Throughout my life as a psychologist, coach, teacher, and human being moving through my own seasons, I've witnessed a universal truth. Life whispers long before it shouts. Most of us are taught to respond only to the shouts, the crises, the breakdowns, the medical scares, the relationship fractures, the career upheavals. But long before any of those arrive, something inside of us begins to murmur, a subtle tug, a hesitation, a sense that something is off, a knowing that doesn't yet have words. So this writing was born from those whispers. It came from my own periods of emotional hibernation, necessary retreats where the soul insists on stillness so that healing and reorientation can occur. It emerged from moments where I mistook that hibernation for avoidance, only to discover later that it was a wisdom deeper than my plans. And it grew from decades of listening to clients and students search for the quiet truths beneath their noise. So what I've learned is this: the soul never stops communicating. Only our pace, our distractions, and our fear keep us from hearing it. This writing is an invitation, not to withdraw from life, but to meet it more consciously, not to silence yourself, but to listen inwardly, not to rush your way forward, but to inhabit your unfolding with gentleness. If you hold this reading, you may already feel a whisper stirring in you. My hope is that these pages help you trust it. And I would just say that my writing I'm now working on a book based on this. It didn't start as a project. It began as a feeling, a subtle inner shift that I couldn't ignore. In recent years, I found myself returning again and again to the idea of the whisper, that quiet inner knowing that I've talked about, where we finally stop trying to outrun ourselves. I noticed how often people spoke of burnout, overwhelm, transition, or loneliness, or ideas that haven't been generated yet. Yet underneath their words was something softer, wiser, and more honest, a yearning, a truth waiting to be acknowledged, a direction waiting to be taken. And I recognize that in my own life. After decades as a therapist, coach, mentor, teacher, I entered seasons that felt confusing and disoriented, like now what? Times when I withdrew into myself without fully understanding why. Times when I questioned my direction. Times when silence became not an escape, but a companion, a welcome companion. Looking back, those were the moments when my soul was speaking the loudest, but only in a whisper. This writing grew out of that. It grew out of my desire to give language to the invisible transitions we all experience, especially in the second half of life. It grew from the stories of clients who found themselves in emotional hibernation without knowing its purpose. It's not to withdraw from life, it's to rejuvenate and replenish. And it grew from my deep belief that our inner life is not a problem to fix, but a landscape to explore. My intention is not to prescribe a path, but to offer a lantern, not to tell you what your whisper means, but to help you hear it more clearly. Wherever you are in your journey, listening, resting, emerging, or returning, I hope these pages and what I shared tonight give you permission to trust your timing and your becoming. So back to this. How does self-care, which is implied in what I just shared with you, relate to the coaching mindset? How is presence as a core competency related to purposeful pausing? These would be some questions if you want to put something in chat or if somebody wants to share in the group. Let's just hear from a few people. Not a lot, but a few might have some words of wisdom to put in chat. How does self-care relate to coaching mindset? Or how does presence relate to purposeful pausing?
We have a thought in the room.
Okay.
Well, we have many thoughts in the room.
All right, hi, I'm Danielle, and how self-care relates to coaching mindset. I feel it's essential to come from a grounded place, and to come from wholeness. And without doing that intentional self-care, I feel like we can't really hold space for our coaching without that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Gonna drop it. She's gonna drop it. That's my.
What did she say, Pat?
Oh gosh, I can't repeat it. Come from wholeness and completeness and balance, groundiness. Yeah.
Could you not hear us?
Yeah, I can hear. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because if we need to repeat in the room, we can.
Any two or three other people, maybe? Well, you got silence down.
I have successfully found my unmute button.
Oh,
This is
good.
Katie Craig here on Zoom. And I just wanted to say, for me, it helps me feel in integrity with so much that I'm coaching around, which I think has a resonance that can be felt. And I also love what Claire Norman has to say about this in The Transformational Coach, one of her books. She speaks quite a lot about how we can put on the cloak of coaching to show up and then invite our clients in to the coaching space.
Who was that speaking?
Claire Norman. I'll put her
No.
information.
Who's speaking? Who are you?
Oh, Katie Craig.
Okay, Katie, thanks. Yeah, Claire Norman. I love Claire Norman. When I was writing this, I sent her my chapter and had her make some comments. I had a lot of people review my writing and in 2 writing classes I was in. And Claire said, "Oh, this is kind of when I have the thought of when the universe flirts with you." All right. Well, I know you have a lot of thoughts. If anybody else has another one they want to say, I'll listen and then we'll move on. Anybody in chat, Barbara?
Nope, we don't have any chat.
Okay. Well, here's a favorite quote of mine from Anne Lamott, great writer. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. I mean, how many times have you just unplug the dang thing and it'll work again, or reboot, right? Well, we reboot our life too. So when has your soul whispered to you? This is going to be preparatory for a breakout we're going to do. So in your individual space right now, just contemplate on this question. When has your soul whispered to you or your higher self nudged you? Sit quietly for just a minute, and then we're going to breakout room, and I'll give you those instructions as soon as that minute is up. Breakout rooms or triads in the room. Think back to a time when your soul whispered recently or long ago. Okay, so now I'm going to have in the event center, please somehow find out if you can get a group of 3. And if that doesn't work out, try to have 4. Don't just do 2. We're going to take 15 minutes total. So in the breakout rooms, you'll be put in groups of 3. And here's how you start. The person with the shortest hair will go first. Each person will share their memory of a whisper that you attended to and the outcome of that whisper. 4 minutes each. So somebody may want to be a timekeeper. 4 minutes each to express your memory of a whisper and how you attended to it and the outcome. And then the second person goes, third person goes, and you'll be brought back after 15 minutes.
Pat, can you go to the next slide? Hey, Pat, can you go to the next slide? There we go. So there we go. The memory of a whisper. You attended. And the outcome.
Okay, are we ready to start the Zoom breakouts?
Yes.
All right, so we do have a couple of 4s. So you'll just need to be a little bit ahead of
Yeah,
the
3
time.
minutes each.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, Front Range.
Okay, welcome back.
Okay. All right, everybody's back. So we have an opportunity now to hear some shares from the Zoomies or those of you at the college. Can you raise your hand or make yourself noticed to share your experience in the group, from the group?
You just heard something.
Let's make sure they can hear us. It sounds like they haven't got our speaker back on yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I hear us.
Well. Come again?
All right, Kim, can you hear us?
Yes, now
Okay,
Good.
great.
we're back.
All right. So to everybody there at the college and also on Zoom, if you could just, let's hear a few shares of what you learned from the group. What insights did you come away with about whispers?
Microphones. Anybody need microphone in the room? John? We have a share in the room.
Is this loud enough, everybody? So, my question, we had a group of 4. I had a loud voice, not a whisper, which was interesting a few times in my life. But several of the people in our group said it wasn't necessarily verbal, it was more of a feeling.
Right, right.
I'd like your opinion on that or your thoughts about that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's not like you really hear a voice. Maybe somebody does, but it really is kind of an internal message. And it's like a whisper or like a inner voice without the sound.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, we're good in the room for those on Zoom.
Maria,
Suzanne?
Maria, I'm wondering, because at the end of our time, it seemed like you really had an aha. And I'm wondering if you'd like to share that. You're on mute.
Okay, well, thank you, Judy. Well, I think my aha was the non-dominant handwriting. Is that what you're? Yeah, so sometimes when those whispers come in, and actually Judy had a really good thing that I wrote down. It was things come through as a message, a lesson, and then a problem. So if you don't get it as a message, then it turns into and the message could be a whisper. So if you don't get it at the whisper stage, it could turn into this lesson. And if you still don't get it, then it becomes a problem. And maybe that's when you pay attention. And I was saying for me, like if I do some non-dominant handwriting, sometimes that helps me really clarify those whispers. You know, it's more than just in my head or like a feeling. It's somehow when it gets down to onto paper, it's a little bit more real, and I can pay attention to that whisper.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who else? Something you
Suzanne,
learned.
Suzanne has her hand up.
Suzanne, yes.
So, along with that, with what Maria and Judy were bringing forth, as a part of that, I find sometimes, particularly if I'm not listening at that message level, that more subtle whisper level, then the soul will whisper to me, or sometimes yell through my body, through a symptom of some kind that's trying, like my soul trying to get my attention through my body.
Yeah.
And the body being the vehicle for that message to come through.
Yeah, I love that. You know, when I say the soul whispers, I mean, the soul means different things to different people. If you've studied heart math, it's also the heart. I mean, I think the heart we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our heart. So those messages are also like soul whispers. You get little body feelings, you get little messages. I'll say more about that before we're done about heart. So,
and that
anybody else?
Message lesson problem comes from Coach U, from my Coach U.
Yes.
And I've seen that play out. A friend of ours, she was having a little heart problem, and the doctor, she went to the doctor, and I don't know what the doctor said, but then you know, when she was she was running in the airport, and then she had to sit down, and then the next time whatever happened, then she wound up in the hospital flat on her back. And so I've added, you know, like God says, hey, Maria, I want to talk to you. And then Maria says, I'm busy. Then, Maria, I want to talk to you. I know, but I'll get to you as soon as I have time. And then flat on the back, oh God, okay, I have time now. What do you want to talk about? So it's good to listen to the whisper.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said. And I think, you know, again, the whisper is not necessarily verbal. It's more of internal, more of silent. But it's also, it can get a little bit more adamant if you don't pay attention the first time. Now, over time, I've learned to listen a little earlier. But I certainly have some circumstances in my life where I had a whisper and then a lesson and then a problem. That became a bigger lesson.
Yeah.
Let's hear
like
one
this,
more.
Pat, like it keeps evolving.
Oh, well, that's coming up next. Thanks for holding that. Hang on. Okay, well, let me move on. Unless you got something to really bated breath to talk about.
You'll have to share your slides again, Pat.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I did find out how to get the people off my hide video panel. There we go. Okay, so thank you for that. Here it is, Judy. You read my mind. The metaphor I use of the spiral is significant in its meaning because imagine a spiral with a vertical line going down the center to show that consciousness or awareness of a learning stage of life are all connected up and down the expanding spiral. So you might have a lesson here in the middle, but you get higher consciousness, you go deeper into some challenge, issue, message, and then as you rise up, you're at the same lesson of health, wealth, love, or happiness, but you're at a higher consciousness. So in our purposeful pausing, we allow for a deeper awareness When we go away and we're having our silent retreat, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days, new insights and intuition. At times of meditation or mindfulness or just allowing stillness in a nurturing space, our experience can go deeper into the spiral and then return to the wider rings of the spiral with new awareness and maybe higher consciousness of the who, what, why of your life. Now, in the depths of my writing on that, I even use the journey like Odysseus, a big challenge in your life, but there's always a return, right? That's a deeper subject that we don't have time for tonight. But I want to also say this: we're not taught to recognize emotional hibernation. In fact, we're kind of conditioned to resist it. We're told that if we feel disconnected, quiet, or dulled, we must be doing something wrong. We have to snap out of it. What's wrong with you? Reset, reignite, get your head back in the game. But emotional hibernation, again, whether it's short periods of time or a purposeful getaway, it's not failure, it's biology. It's an act of wisdom. It's the nervous system whispering, retreat, recalibrate, reemerge. Let yourself disappear from the noise in your life long enough to hear what's true again at the center. Some call it depression. I've come to call it depletion. Yes, there is depression. I know that. But many of the people that came to my office were more depleted than depressed. Depleted like energy drainers that we talk about in coaching. They just need some time to recharge. But at its core, emotional hibernation is often a sign of the soul protecting itself. A deep internal silence, not meant to punish, but to preserve. It brings to mind what I've learned in nature. Nature is really my church. And right out our back, that river behind my house and behind my picture is the river right behind our house, which doesn't have that much water in it now, I will say. But animals saunter in nature. They only run when they're being pursued or in danger, or yes, being playful perhaps. Just as animals instinctively slow down or go into seclusion when seasons shift from fall to winter, so too do we at certain times in our life, whether or not we understand why. We may not follow the seasons like animals do, but we still have the metaphoric response of a season. We humans can learn to saunter and to hibernate emotionally, to slow down and really notice where you are. Now, if you're a marathon runner, God knows why, but if you are, then you can go ahead and do your running and saunter somewhere else. There's also times when you don't need to hibernate, but perhaps just slow it down. Your life quakes. What Bruce Feiler has come to term a life quake. That's another nudge, another little disruption. Life quakes are signals when you feel a rumbling and you become more aware. When you feel safe again, you can saunter like animals do when you're not in danger. Life quakes are reminders to slow down and focus on where you are. Two writers wrote about this. Henry David Thoreau even wrote a book called Walking. And in that little tiny little book, he talks about sauntering. John Muir, who was the famous photographer, also wrote about sauntering because they both were in nature a lot. They were writing about nature. But this kind of hibernation for you may look like this: turning down invitations that once lit you up, saying yes too much, losing interest in your passions, feeling tearful without a reason, wanting quiet, space, solitude, drifting inside yourself like mist. And it can feel stultifying at times because we've built lives that reward constant availability, quick answers, and visible productivity. And today we know we're overstimulated ever since we got all these devices that we all have. Hibernation asks you to unplug or unhook, to slow down, have periods where you do that on purpose, purposeful pausing, to stop demanding a clear reason for your emptiness and instead let the emptiness add clarity. What needs to go in that emptiness? So as hibernation is not stagnation, it's preparation. Even with bears, it's preparation. They're not hiding. They're going in to raise their babies or relax and get ready for spring when they don't have to trudge through the deep snow. Fortunately, we don't have to do that unless you live in the Yukon. It is the season that cradles your becoming. It asks these questions. What must go quiet in me so something deeper can arise? What truth have I buried beneath motion? What would it feel like to not fix, but to simply feel? Most people don't pause at this point, the spiral of self-awareness. They push through, they armor up, they override the whisper that says, you need rest, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. But you're hearing this. Wow, that was a whisper. You're hearing this now, so maybe you've heard a whisper. Just lastly here, from a Jungian lens, this is the quiet summon to individuation, a call for the authentic self to emerge, not through striving, but through surrender and welcoming. When the noise falls away, when we can unplug and get to I'm going to talk about ways you can do that in just a minute. We do it through not striving, but surrender and a welcoming. And stillness is invited. The deeper truths can rise to the surface. So maybe something in you is seeking a nurturing space, an inward turn, the holy ache that precedes healing. You're not falling apart. You're preparing to go inward. And that's just the beginning. So there's another word that I think is important. You can also think about where my friend that I've come to know over the years, Dr. James Rouse, who lives up in Evergreen, and some of you might get his newsletter. He wrote one a couple months ago called, "In a world that's speeding up, shouting louder, and pulling us in 1,000 directions, there's never been a more important time to come back to your rhythm." So something may already be whispering inside you, that feeling of something is off. It might be more draining, a little less meaningful, a little more difficult time to navigate. Here's the truth. The world is off rhythm, but that doesn't mean you have to be. When the world gets loud, the wise get quiet. When culture tells you to hustle, you might be invited to listen. When everything feels out of sync, your rhythm becomes your greatest act of rebellion. Our bodies were never meant to run 24/7. Our hearts weren't designed for constant urgency. Within each of us is a rhythm that is ancient, intelligent, and deeply healing, what I have come to call the art of inner knowing. So think about the words that I've shared with you tonight: hibernation, cocooning. And I know somebody on this call went to Hudson Institute. Frederick Hudson got to be a friend of mine over the years. And in his book, Life Launch, and I went to his training in Vail probably 30 years ago on Life Launch, he introduced me to the word cocooning and talked a lot about the act of rejuvenation and this and that. And now Fran and I are both alumni of the Modern Elder Academy in Santa Fe and Baja, Mexico. And Chip Conley, if some of you know him, talks a lot about the concept of cocooning and not midlife crisis, but midlife chrysalis. That's a good site to check out if you want to, Modern Elder Academy. And also maybe you take a personal sabbatical. Could be getaway weekends, which I love. I wish I was a professor that after 7 years got a whole year of sabbatical. That would have been nice. But not for escape, but for rest, rejuvenation, and replenishing. There's those words again. To listen for whispers, to hear your internal voice, to connect with your true self. So here's some practices that I'm going to talk about, and then we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end here. Communing with nature. Now, Fran and I got to go to a workshop in Baja, Mexico. I won a week, and she got to go with me at half price to hear a man named Dacher Keltner, who we'd never heard of before, but now he's quite famous. He's a UC Berkeley professor and has a happiness institute as well. He wrote a book called Awe, A-W-E, and we picked that workshop to go to for a week, and it was awesome. He's a great teacher, very approachable, had some wonderful research. Like if you spend 10 minutes in nature and look up at the sky and look at the trees and get in the sun, your immune system is greatly replenished. There are lots of things that happen in the body if you spend time in nature. So for all of you who live in New York City, don't forget you've got the big park. But, get out in nature, spend some time, more time than 10 minutes, hopefully. Quiet contemplation. Now that's a word I've come to learn because Fran and I have both been taking a meditation course for the last 3 years.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, no, sorry. Meditation, not medication, and not mediation. Anyway, we've learned from a gentleman that there is a difference with contemplation where you're actually thinking about something, and meditation is when you try to get rid of the thoughts and just go into your depth. Walking, sauntering, poetry. So, what kind of things allow you to become a soul whisperer on that? I'd love to hear from people. What do you do to quiet yourself, or what will you do now that you've heard some of this tonight? Let's have some shares in that.
Fran here. I'm focusing on my breath these days. Deeper breathing. I've been holding my breath high in my chest, and my shoulders have been up around my ears most of my life, holding a lot of tension in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So reminding myself to breathe deeply and more frequently.
Purposely. Yeah. Yeah. We take breathing for granted, don't we? Who else?
One of the things that's been very beneficial to me, I notice as I have my energy now, I don't have a need for that. But watching very loving Hallmark movies.
Yeah. Where they kiss at the end with a snowstorm, you mean?
Those kind, yes. And just, wrapping myself with my covers and just being in that loving environment, and it just would make me feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
And also EFT.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional freedom technique.
Right. Somebody else in chat listed some things too. There's Lori Weiss says that the song "The Rose" is a beautiful metaphor for this process. Yeah. Oh, God was in a sad movie though, but it is good. It's really good. Carl says the big one is music that's always running through my mind, even in my dreams. Yeah, Fran can attest that some word will be said during the day, and all of a sudden I remember a tune that goes with that. But there's certain music I listen to when I want to quiet. And I think of songs like, well, this is a good one, like Let It Be by Paul McCartney. He even wrote that because he heard a whisper. He woke up with that song, having a dream about his mother, who was Mary. Mother Mary comes to me. And he wrote that song. And I think, man, I wish I'd wake up with some writing already done. But, it happens a few times. And who else has something? Excuse me. Oh, Suzanne Mariner says anything that calls us inward brings us back home, brings us back home.
Yes, that the spacing got a little weird there, but yes,
yeah, I like
anything that
though.
Brings us back home.
Back home, but with a heart.
Yes, somehow the space was not intentional, but then sometimes that's when the great gifts come in, is those supposed mistakes, right?
Yeah. And Katie Craig says sitting, just sitting, looking at the morning light, maybe petting the dog on my lap, drinking coffee and sitting. Yeah, dogs and cats and, they are therapy. We have a friend that takes her dogs to elderly homes because they're so therapeutic. There's a lot of truth to that if you don't have a dog that drives you crazy. Molly Plumley says prayer, being outdoors, especially while being active, skiing, hiking, music, times of simple quiet. Yeah, there's so many ways you can do it. Get away from the noise, be with yourself, have moments of calming, and nature is right outside our door.
This is Stan. Listening to synchronicities, like actually stopping to notice when synchronicities happen, because they hear often the whisper.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Carl Jung and Freud used to have, some battles, and Jung was talking about synchronicity, and things happen and when you least expect it, and it's a reminder. And Freud didn't quite believe in that, and all of a sudden a bunch of books fell out of the bookshelf and cracked. So that's a true story. It's a true story, by the way. Synchronicity, yeah. If you don't hear it the first time, you'll hear it a second time, or something else will happen to remind you again. It's kind of like that. What was it? Some problem. What were the three words again? A reminder, a experience. Now, well, doesn't matter. It'll get a little louder if you don't pay attention.
The message lesson problem.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I get a lot of spam in email, calls, texts, whatever medium. And I've been getting a lot of them that, you know, they say that my website is not what it should be, and they'll be happy to send me quotes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so last week I got one. Usually I just reply and say remove, but this one, it said they were based in Sheridan, Wyoming. And I thought, wow, that's pretty close. That led a little credibility. And so I wrote back and said, okay. And so the guy wrote to me, he said, we'll do an audit and all that, and then we can do a video call. And I hadn't had a chance to respond. And then he called and we set up a video call for yesterday morning. And yesterday morning I had on this same shirt. And when that guy came on, he was in India.
Yeah.
And he had on the same color shirt. And we had such a connection. I don't know, I don't know for sure that we'll work together, but, that was like a whisper.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good guy to talk to. And he started telling me about AI and all that. I said, no, I know all that. And he'd tell me about something. I said, I know all that. I know. And finally he said, you are a breath of fresh air.
Well, thank you, Judy. Before I get to Q&A, I want to finish up with a few things here. I mentioned HeartMath and heart coherence. Most of you are probably aware of that. If you have that client that's in their head the whole time and have them just put their hand on their heart and say, what does your heart say? It's usually 3 or 4 words like keep moving or just do it or get off it or something like that. There's a couple paragraphs I want to read to you from HeartMath because they do a thing called block breathing. Breathe 5 seconds in, hold it 5 seconds, 5 seconds out. And you bring your heart, brain, and your gut, your whole nervous system into coherence. In this state, your body operates with greater efficiency, clarity, and balance. You don't have to breathe for minutes and minutes. Just do that a few times. You don't force it, you allow it. As your breathing rhythm steadies, your heart rhythm follows. When the heart enters coherence, it sends signals to the brain that promote calm, focus, and emotional stability. Learning becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Presence becomes natural. It's not about calming down for the sake of calm. It's about creating the internal conditions required for intentional living. So as you breathe, something subtle happens. You become aware. You notice sensations in your body, the temperature of the air, the rise and fall of your chest, the space between inhale and exhale. And in that space, you begin to feel again, not to think, not to analyze, just feel. This is where intentionality begins. In some of my favorite poems, I'm just going to cite a couple, and there's a couple short ones I want to read to you here. Like Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Just listen to these words, because my teacher in creative writing in high school told me this poem was about suicide. It's not. It's about communing with nature. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask me if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. But I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And just one more I want to read, and we'll open it up to Q&A or examples you have. Fran and I were up to Estes Park again for her birthday in January, and we went into the Rocky Mountain Park photography dude, and Fran bought a book called Whispers in the Wilderness. The title, I had to get it, right? So one of his chapters, and he says, read each one, just read one a day. Don't read the whole book. And they're beautiful photographs with little narratives like this one. Silent sunrise. The rising sun makes no noise. If you were not paying attention and looking in the right direction, you could miss it. Yet its silent arrival does not make it any less important. Our very lives and every living thing on this planet depend on that sunrise. Though the sun has important work to do, it does not call attention to itself. Most days, it goes about its work completely unrecognized by us. Far too often, we pay attention to the loud and the brash, which tend to have little meaning, while overlooking the important things that are taking place so quietly and humbly just outside the corner of our eye. Somehow we need to retune our senses and learn to turn away from the noise to focus on what is important. In much the same way, we miss the still small voice that ever so quietly whispers our name. It patiently waits for us to pay attention to the stillness. In the quiet and unseen place, it is there to meet with us and lead us down the forgotten path, the rarely traveled trail that leads to life as we never knew it could be. So with that, let me stop and just remind you that you can see how this applies to coaching, and it applies to you having the best life possible, and keep shining on that by finding times to get away from the noise. So at this point, I'm open to questions. And I'll stop the slides. There's everybody with their smiling faces. Who's got a comment or a question?
We have one in the room.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. And I have to say, I definitely resonated with what you were saying, because I was talking to my group earlier that I'm in a liminal stage of my life right now.
Yeah.
And so I was feeling a little guilty about the pauses that I've been doing, but there's so much richness that has emerged from it. And so it's just nice to get that affirmation that this is a natural stage, just like our seasons, because our society is just so driven, like you said earlier, to just always blooming. I feel like I'm failing when I'm not always blooming, and so just to have that, I think is beautiful. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think the message is, instead of fighting it, say, what's the lesson here? How can I learn from this moment? How can I welcome silence?
We have one more.
Okay.
Sure.
That was Danielle before.
I'm
Okay,
John-
thanks, Danielle.
I'm John Schuster, Pat, and by the way, I really loved what you said tonight. So thank you so much from all of us. I know I'm speaking for many more than me. Frederick Hudson was my mentor, and I still do some work in retirement programs at PwC for the Hudson Institute of Coaching. So when you said that, it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
I come find you. But here's the question I had. So people our age, I resonated with the wisdom factor you bring with your age. You've been growing old, not getting old. And that's what our job is, keep growing. And you're such evidence of that. And so the world is in a a big pickle right now. And everybody knows it. And coaching has a role in that, feels like to me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how coaching can help during this time in a way that the world can pull itself through this huge stress test it's under and do something.
I think the philosophy and the practices of coaching help us as a coach. And if we can impart that to our clients, we may not be solving the world, but who was it that said, start with one person? You know, might have been Gandhi or might have been somebody else wise like that. If a lot of us do that, it will change the energy on the earth. And there's lots of studies about, you know, a percentage of a city. I think Greg Braden says it's 1% square root, blah, blah, blah. The crime rate goes down. All sorts of things happen when people are having an energetic. So I won't go too deep in there, but yeah, get off social media as much as you can. Talk to real people and believe in the future.
Thank you.
Somebody else?
Oh, Stan we're getting the microphone.
Okay.
I just wonder if you guys would be open to me reading a short poem, since you were reading poems earlier, Pat, because this one is exactly about listening to the whisper. This is a poem called Dust by Dorian Locks. Someone spoke to me last night, told me the truth. Just a few words, but I recognized it. I knew I should make myself get up, write it down, but it was late. I was exhausted from working all day in the garden, moving rocks. Now I remember only the flavor, not like food, sweet or sharp, more like a fine powder, like dust. And I wasn't elated or frightened, but simply rapt, aware. This is how it is sometimes. God comes to your window, all bright light and black wings, and you're just too tired to open it.
Beautiful.
You'll send us that or add it to base camp.
You know, I've so come to appreciate poetry. I remember liking a lot of it in creative writing class, but David White has become, he's not a friend, but a person I follow a lot. I take his classes, he calls 3 Sundays, and you get a little hour and a half on a Sunday and different topics. And he many years ago said, poetry is meant to be read out loud. And boy, does that make a difference. It really does. It kind of vibrates you when you read it out loud.
Like singing too.
Well, if I sing out loud, it may not be that good, but other people, yeah. Anybody here in the Zumbi room? Well, let me read what I call a closing benediction, and then we'll call it a night. It's for the ones who wandered inward. May you remember that slowness is not a flaw, that silence is not absence, that softness is not weakness. Your retreat was not wasted time, but sacred space. May the parts of you that emerge from the cocoon or hibernation be tender, fierce, and whole. May you spiral again when needed, without shame, without apology. And may you always know you are not behind, you are on the path. And the path includes a winter. Let the world bloom on its own time. Embrace a gentle becoming with tenderness, remembering the experience of softening, the stillness, the slow dance, the peaceful breath, all preparing for your return. May your hands extend with kindness, crafting hope in every task. Let compassion be your compass in each challenge that you ask. May your voice uplift the weary, speak the truth with gentle grace, be a beacon in the darkness, bringing light to every place. The end. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Pat. I sense the peace. I feel the peace. And and it just feels so good. I don't feel like, oh, I should ask a question.
Well, I feel a lot better than I did most of the day, so that's really good. It helped me too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Kim, did you want to say anything to wrap up?
Yeah, just thank you. What a fantastic evening. Really delighted that we have some folks in the room and a great group online, and hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to fill out your survey. And I did see a comment. Let's keep the conversation going on Basecamp. Right?
Oh,
Let's keep sharing the peace and passing the peace and being in community. And
yeah.
we have a comment, Lori.
Sharing opportunities for community.
Ah,
Retreats and things like that that people know about.
Yeah.
Sounds great. These can be a conversation.
yeah. So in that networking spot on Basecamp, share, the cocooning opportunities and retreat opportunities. And I guess certainly within the chat for this group, but let's just.
I had something on my heart that I wanted to say.
Do you want to put it on the microphone so that they can hear you? You have to turn it on. Hold on.
Hold it down.
Just hold it.
Hold the power down. Fill it during screen.
Maybe you can just.
Okay. Here.
Does it work now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Hi, this is Anna, the membership director, for those that don't know me. Hi. I appreciate everything that was said today, but just food for thought. I went to a full day convening in Denver on Thursday about health and well-being. And it still touches me that there was not once a coach mentioned. And whole program. So I think there's still a lot of work for us to do to connect to well-being and health. So it was specifically health and well-being with arts, music, movement, dance, nature, but there was no coach mentioned. And I think, maybe ICF Colorado can do something about that.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you. Okay, I guess there are no other comments, questions. Thank you all for joining us. So delightful to see you, and I wish you a great rest of your evening, month ahead. Look forward to seeing you at all of the upcoming events, including our next virtual meeting. So let's keep this great energy going. Thank you, Pat, for being with us and helping us to listen to our soul whispering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pleasure.
Have a great night.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.